Alright, so first video, man. You see me looking down at my phone just because I'm looking at some notes that I wrote down while I'm listening to the music, kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. First thing I definitely want to talk about is my spectrum for music appreciation. I love music anywhere from Baroque era classical music all the way to like Drake or the Migos. Now I don't really listen to too much of that, like the modern hip hop a lot, but I definitely don't shun it, and I don't shun any music. I love if you come to me with suggestions of what you think I should listen to, I'll listen to it like that because I love checking out new music. Uh, so that being said, like the things I talk about, they'll be like all over the place. They'll be everywhere, man. Country music, classical music, rock and roll, blues, I guess I don't really go towards electronic music that often, but I will say Beastie Boys, "Body Moving" with Daft Punk. I know it's an old school song, but it's awesome. All right, man. So the other day, here's what I did. I started off with Ice T's "Colors." That is an awesome song to get your day started to, because you just kind of gets you in that funk move. Like it gets me, for me personally, it gets my feet tapping. It gets my brain going like, yeah, today's a good day. No one's gonna like mess with my energy today, nothing like that. And it just got me in a good mood. Got me going real early because I gotta wake up early. Like next, I moved on to a song that actually I woke up with this song in my head, and it's called "Long and Winding Road" by the Beatles off of their "Let It Be" album, which is actually their last album that the Beatles created. And they infamously performed it on top of Apple Records in London, and the police came and tried to shut it down. But if for any of my Beatles people out there who know much about the Beatles, they tried to shut the concert down that they were doing on the rooftop, but them being the Beatles, doing basically whatever they want because they're the freaking Beatles, they made it happen. And, that's good because if that didn't happen, this awesome record wouldn't have been made. The thing about this record is that it like you can feel kind of this ominous feeling that it was like the last record the Beatles were doing, and you can kind of sense that in the record itself. And it's like a bittersweet end because obviously without the ending of the Beatles, Paul McCartney wouldn't have done the great things he did with Wings, and George Harrison. George Harrison is my favorite Beatle. I love George Harrison. He influenced my personal life a lot, and so he's my favorite Beatle by far. And so their solo, each of their solo careers, I love just as much as I love the Beatles' career in general. And and so you can kind of feel that on this record. You can kind of feel, but what you can also feel is the electricity. They have this old they just had this feeling of just rock and roll raw. Just plug in the amplifier and set the record and start recording. And One After 909 is one of my favorite songs on that album. It gets your feet tapping for sure, and it's got like that swinging rock feeling to it. Boom, 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 and I love that feeling. That's why I love listening to Chuck Berry and all of the Godfathers of rock and roll, if you will, and like Jerry Lee Lewis's piano work. You can hear all of their earlier influences on these songs. So One After 909 and um, The Two of Us. That song is really interesting to me because I often wonder if on that song Paul McCartney is singing about him and John Lennon or him and his wife Linda at the time. So I don't know. I would have to fact check that, but it's something that always kind of crosses my mind when I hear that song because it kind of applies to both because John Lennon and Paul McCartney were kind of like they were not kind of, they were most definitely a brotherhood, um, very close, and obviously all the songwriting they did together. So it really makes you wonder what he was talking about. And I find that with a lot of the Beatles songs. I'm really curious as to what the process was behind the writing because the writing is just so good. I mean, these songs. I mean, if it can consistently stand the test of time, then it's all right with me. And that goes for any music because that's respect. That's not easy to do. To to have a song that when it was released in 1968, you can turn on the radio in 2020 and it still gets people out of their seat and just moving. So if that's what if, I like that, man. You gotta have respect for that for sure. I had a 60s rock kick the other day. A lot of Rolling Stones, a lot of the Zombies, a lot of the Mamas and Papas. You know, California Dreaming, California Dreaming on such a winter's day. Love it, man. It's such a the mid '60s was so impressive because they had just started putting stereophonic music into play. That's where, like, if you have the headphones on and you're listening to a song, the Beatles did this a lot. If you hear it coming in on this ear, and then it'll start to come in on this ear, or it'll fade in and out of each ear. It's called stereophonic. It's really far out. It's a really cool way to really get your record to stand out. And I love listening to it. And I was also listening to Donovan. I don't know if a lot of people know about Donovan. I mean, I know a lot of older people definitely know about Donovan, but all the people, even my age, who listen to old school music know about Donovan. Donovan's music is very, um, he has a mystique about his voice. His voice makes you kind of question, like, is this good? I think it's pretty good, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. So if you get a chance, you should definitely listen to Donovan. He's a fantastic finger picking guitarist. He can play flamenco guitar and finger pick. He actually played on the Beatles track "Mother Nature's Son." He wrote that while he was with the Beatles in India, and I heard this. I can't remember where I heard it from, so I'm poor on the sources. That goes for a lot of the stuff I just happen to know. Um, they were in a bungalow in India, and Donovan started just playing this little rhythm on the guitar, finger picking it, and Paul McCartney started writing Mother Nature's Son off of the White Album. So White Album is always a go-to album of mine. Pretty much any Beatles album is a go-to album of mine. I love the Beatles just as much as I love Led Zeppelin, and I love Led Zeppelin a lot. For anybody who doesn't know me, I have a massive Led Zeppelin tattoo right here on my arm. I don't know if you can see that. That's the hermit right there. The symbols for each member of the band. Led Zeppelin right across there. Led Zeppelin right here. Led Zeppelin right here. Led Zeppelin right there against the wall. So yeah, Led Zeppelin all the way. But I digress. The Beatles are pretty close up there with as far as my keenness goes for them as a band. So the other day, you know, I'm gonna do this all the time. I'm just gonna write down whatever music I'm listening to and how it makes me feel. That was my little rant for you guys. Um, I am gonna be creating the Instagram and Twitter and Facebook for Smokin Lightning with Canaan Crowell. That's me. For anybody who doesn't know. Yeah, man. So give it a like, give it a subscribe. If you want to hear me talk about music, maybe you could hear some of the things I'm talking about and check it out yourself, and you might dig it. You might find yourself listening to the Beatles yourself, or Led Zeppelin, or any of the other bands. Definitely check out Donovan. Definitely check out Donovan. What's the name of that? Season of the Witch. Season of the Witch by Donovan. Very good song. Definitely check that out. And you'll see what I'm talking about with his voice. It's very changing. Like the octaves are going up and down. And when I look out my window, very what's the word? Bubbly. All right, guys, take it easy. It's nice doing this. I'll be checking in next week. Whatever I'm listening to, might be Bob Dylan, might be the Allman Brothers, might be Dr. Dre, Might be Snoop Dogg. I don't know. Thanks, guys. Peace. Be kind to one another.